Shocking betrayal. David had always trusted his wife, Laura. Married for 6 years, their relationship seemed like a picture-perfect marriage. He was a software engineer working from home, and she worked as an executive assistant in a corporate office. David often admired how dedicated Laura was to her job, even when she stayed late at work. He thought it was passion. But little did he know, that passion was being directed elsewhere. Over the past few months, Laura started acting distant. She was constantly texting, always smiling at her phone, and dressing up more than usual for work. When David asked, she brushed it off with a laugh, saying she was just trying to look professional for her new boss, Mr. Reynolds. One Friday evening, Laura told David that she had to work late because of an urgent project. David, wanting to surprise her, decided to bring her favorite food and drop by her office. As he approached the office building, he noticed Laura's car still in the parking lot, but all the lights inside the building were off, except for one on the top floor. Suspicious, David entered quietly. The security guard knew him and let him pass without question. As he climbed the stairs, he heard faint laughter and the sound of wine glasses clinking. His heart began to race. When he reached the office door, he peeked through the glass, and what he saw shattered his world. There she was. Laura, sitting on the desk in a tight red dress, passionately kissing Mr. Reynolds, her boss. Her legs wrapped around him, his hands all over her. The same woman who used to cry in David's arms now had no idea he was watching her betray every vow they had made. David didn't barge in. Instead, he took out his phone, recorded the scene, and quietly walked away. He spent the night in his car, battling heartbreak and rage. The next morning, he confronted Laura. She denied everything. Until he showed her the video. With nothing left to hide, Laura confessed. She said it had been going on for 4 months and claimed she felt alive with her boss in a way she didn't anymore with David. She didn't even seem sorry. David filed for divorce that week. But the betrayal left a deep scar. Trust, love, marriage, everything he believed in was crushed in a single night. David moved out the same day he confronted Laura. He packed a small bag, left his wedding ring on the kitchen counter, and didn't say a word. For days, he stayed with his older brother, barely speaking to anyone. The pain was too fresh, too sharp. Every time he closed his eyes, he saw Laura in her boss's arms. Meanwhile, Laura tried reaching out, not to apologize, but to explain. She sent long texts saying she never meant to hurt David, that it just happened. She said Mr. Reynolds gave her attention, made her feel wanted. But none of her words mattered. David had seen the truth with his own eyes. Weeks passed, and Laura's perfect little affair started to crumble. Mr. Reynolds was married too, and when his wife found out, she filed for divorce and leaked the scandal to his company. He lost his job. And just like that, Laura was left alone. No husband. No lover. And soon, no job either. David, on the other hand, started rebuilding his life. Slowly. He began going to therapy, focusing on his work, and spending time with old friends. The betrayal had broken something inside him, but it also woke him up. He realized how much of himself he had sacrificed for someone who didn't value him. One day, months later, Laura showed up at his doorstep. She looked nothing like the confident woman she once was. Her eyes were puffy, her voice shaky. She said she regretted everything, that losing David was the worst mistake of her life. But David didn't let her in. He simply said, "You didn't just cheat on me, you destroyed us. And now there's nothing left to fix." He closed the door, this time for good. And for the first time in a long time, David felt peace. After David closed the door, he stood in silence for a few seconds. His heart was pounding, but not from sadness, from strength. For the first time in months, he had taken control. He wasn't the broken man begging for answers anymore. He was healing. Slowly, but surely. Laura stood outside for a while, hoping he'd open the door again. But he didn't. Eventually, she walked away, alone and defeated. In the months that followed, David focused entirely on himself. He joined a gym, started journaling, and even began volunteering at a local community center. He found peace in small, consistent things, morning runs, cooking new meals, and helping others who had experienced betrayal. Meanwhile, Laura struggled. Her name was whispered in office corridors and social circles. Everyone knew what had happened. Her affair wasn't just a personal failure anymore, it was public humiliation. She tried dating again, but no one seemed to take her seriously. The charm she once used to seduce her boss now felt hollow. One day, David got a message on social media. It was from a woman named Claire, a therapist who followed his blog, which he had started anonymously, sharing his healing journey. She said his writing helped her through her own divorce. They started talking casually, and then frequently. Claire was kind, smart, and emotionally mature. She didn't rush him. She understood his wounds because she had her own. Over time, they built a connection that was based on honesty and mutual growth, not excitement or seduction. A year after his divorce, David stood on a hill overlooking the city, holding Claire's hand. He remembered the pain, the betrayal, the heartbreak, but he no longer felt chained to it. He had survived. As for Laura, she continued to live with regret. Every time she scrolled through her old wedding photos or saw couples in love, she felt a sharp sting in her chest. She had traded loyalty for lust. And lost everything. Sometimes, the worst betrayal teaches you the most important lesson: your worth isn't defined by who broke you, but by how you rebuild yourself. It had been nearly 2 years since David walked away from his broken marriage. Life wasn't perfect, but it was real. Steady. Calm. He and Claire had moved in together, not out of desperation, but because they had built a foundation. They laughed often, communicated openly, and supported each other through the emotional scars they both carried. David still had moments of reflection, especially when he passed by familiar places, the old apartment he shared with Laura, the coffee shop where they used to meet after work, or the restaurant where he had proposed to her. These places no longer made him angry, just thoughtful. They were part of a life that no longer belonged to him. Meanwhile, Laura had moved into a small apartment on the edge of town. Her days were mostly quiet and uneventful. She found a job as an assistant at a much smaller company, where nobody knew her past. But inside, she hadn't truly moved on. Some nights she'd scroll through David's blog, which was no longer anonymous. He had gone public with it, sharing his full story in hopes of helping others. Thousands followed his journey, people who, like him, had been shattered but refused to stay broken. She read every post. Some made her cry. Some made her feel sick. But none made her feel peace. One evening, Laura saw a photo David had shared, him and Claire at a book signing for his newly published memoir, titled Shattered, Not Destroyed. His smile was genuine. Claire held his hand proudly. That's when Laura realized, David hadn't just survived, he had risen. She wanted to message him, just once, to say sorry, truly and sincerely. But she never did. She knew the apology was more for herself than for him. Instead, she wrote it in a journal. I broke a man who only ever wanted to love me. And in doing so, I broke myself. He forgave me by moving on. I may never forgive myself. David, on the other hand, didn't hate Laura. In fact, he had forgiven her, not because she deserved it, but because he deserved peace. Hatred was a weight he no longer carried. His story had become more than pain. It had become purpose. And sometimes, the greatest revenge, is happiness. Moral of the story. Betrayal may break your heart, but it doesn't have to break your spirit. When someone you love betrays you, it reveals their character, not your worth. Healing takes time, but walking away from someone who doesn't value you is the first step toward rediscovering your strength. True closure doesn't come from revenge or regret, it comes from rebuilding yourself, finding peace, and choosing happiness over hate.